Since its return to a multi-party system of governance more than 2 decades ago, Ghana has made major strides towards consolidating its democratic achievements. Following the substantial reduction of the fiscal deficit from 10.2% of GDP in 2014 to 6.3% in 2015, Ghana revised its budget to reflect the expected shortfall in domestic revenue as a result of unanticipated technical problems in the Jubilee oil field. My name is Peace Hyde, and this is my worst day on Forbes Africa TV. The near-term challenges for Ghana include continued high domestic financing cost, currently above 20%, and only likely to ease slightly if the inflation rate continues to fall. Amidst these economic challenges, a serial entrepreneur emerged as a giant in the West African country. Let's take a look at who he is. Dr. Paa Kwesi Nduom, a businessman and politician. He's the founder of the Progressive People's Party. A former member of parliament, he also held 2 ministerial portfolios, energy and public sector reform, under the Kufuor administration. Dr. Nduom joined Deloitte & Touche in 1981 as an associate consultant. Dr. Nduom moved through the ranks at Deloitte & Touche and became a partner of the firm in the Milwaukee office 1986. In 1988, he was transferred to Washington, D.C. office of Deloitte & Touche. In 1992, he established Deloitte & Touche West Africa Consulting. Dr. Nduom first established Gold Coast Securities Limited, now Gold Coast Fund Management, to provide investment advisory services for companies and individuals in Ghana. His investments in the service sector and industries under the Group Nduom Industrial Estate in Elmina later grew to over 50 entities in Ghana and 5 other countries worldwide. Beyond the 4 manufacturing subsidiaries in the enclave, such as GN Electronics, Freshpack, GN Printing, and GN Logistics, which were incorporated late 2014 and 2015, the estate and its environs also host the Nduom Stadium, a 25,000-seater sports arena. Also under construction is the Nduom University. He is the owner of the First Division club, Elmina Sharks, with Group Nduom also recently acquiring the Illinois Service Federal Savings Bank in the United States. Thank you for joining us on my worst day on Forbes Africa TV. And today we are joined by none other than an exceptional man. It is an absolute honor to introduce Dr. Paa Kwesi Nduom. You're most welcome to the show.
You're welcome.
In Ghana, you are known and respected as one of the icons in business and in the political space. But for those who may be hearing your name for the first time, please let us begin by finding out, who is Dr. Paa Kwesi Nduom?
I'm just an ordinary person from Elmina in Ghana, fishing town, son of school teachers who has had opportunity to demonstrate what is it that I can do, I can be.
Now that is a very, very humble introduction that you gave to us, Dr. Nduom. But your journey has actually seen you gaining an invaluable experience from the US and the strategic implementation in Ghana with the formation of the Group Nduom. Talk to us a little bit more about that journey, please.
Well, I tell people that for you to get anywhere, you must have opportunity. I had opportunity to go to the US first because I happened to write an essay, got a scholarship to spend a year. But then from then on, I took advantage of any and every opportunity given to me to go back to the US, to work, to study, to find jobs, to learn what it is that I was being asked to do it well, to try to be amongst the best wherever I found myself. And prepared myself for any eventuality. And wherever it is that I have been, I've tried to live with this thing about being prepared, being ready for anything that will be thrown at me. And also understanding that if you're in the US and you are African and you are Black, that you already start with a deficit. And so you must work much ahead with much more speed and want to excel and be the best that you could possibly be, because being okay is not enough. Being like anybody else is not enough, because you're not like anybody else. And so those opportunities that came my way, by watching other people, by understanding what it is that will be required, I had the chance eventually to become a partner with the professional services firm, auditing, accounting, management consulting, originally called Touche Ross, which became eventually Deloitte and Touche.
Now, in addition to your illustrious business career, you actually founded your own political party, the Progressive People's Party. Talk to me about where the interest in democracy came from.
Well, that just came as I was looking for opportunity, because I had never worked in Ghana, that I wanted to work in Ghana. So I came and offered my services for free for anyone who would just allow me into their organization. And Ashanti Goldfields at that time, AGC, offered me that opportunity to spend a week or two studying their computer systems, studying their practices as far as management information systems was concerned. And then, because they liked the report I gave, that provided me the intro or the introduction to their business, introduction to doing business in Ghana. And so that got me started, and opportunities came. And I took advantage of each opportunity that came.
Now, it's quite clear in both sectors, in the business space and in the political realm, you have made a huge impact in Ghana and globally. Your portfolio of businesses is made up of over 50 businesses spanning several sectors, and I'm sure you've had your fair share of challenges. But I must ask, what is your worst day in business so far?
Well, my worst day in business happened in 1995. I was managing the company we called and still call Gold Coast. Originally it was called Gold Coast Securities. It is still called Gold Coast. It's an investment management firm, and I was doing other things. And I was invited to go and speak to students at the Wharton Business School in the US to talk to them about investment in Africa. And so I flew from Accra to Washington, D.C., on my way to Pennsylvania to go and give this talk. And when I arrived in Washington, D.C., I was handed a series of faxes that had come from Ghana by my brother. He met me at the airport. And these faxes, were like your worst nightmare. That a number of consulting assignments that we had in Ghana had been canceled by government, and over $2 million worth of jobs had overnight just disappeared. I was serving on the board of Ghana Airways at that time, and the front page of the newspaper said I'd been removed from the board. I was doing some work for the State Enterprises Commission, and it said that I was being investigated. And that the Serious Fraud Office in Ghana, was doing an investigation on me. It was just front page, on the basis of the work that I was involved in doing with the State Enterprises Commission, and so on and so forth. And this thing eventually escalated escalated to become something between the government of Ghana and the USA. Because Deloitte was a US firm, and at that time I was still a partner with the US firm, and so on and so forth. And I was a member firm of Deloitte and Touche. And so it became just a bad experience of a government, and the government of a country that I had chosen, even all those years that I lived in the US, had chosen not to become a US citizen, but to remain a Ghanaian citizen and to come to Ghana to offer my services and to have that government decide that it would cut me out of business for no apparent reason. This was the time, in 1995, J.J. Rawlings was the president of Ghana. The NDC was in office, but there were individuals who were involved, and people who did that. Even today, you ask them why they couldn't tell you why they did that. But I took it as an opportunity to move my businesses away from government and not to go for any government assignment, no government involvement, even up until today. I don't allow my businesses to go to any government agency to look for business of any type. If somebody wants to do business with my hotels, fine. If someone wants to do business with our bank, fine. But we would not go to anybody in government to look for business and to allow anyone to use the fact that we're doing business with them to now come and try to use it to destroy anything that we have built.
Now, at this point, when you've been terminated from so many key positions and losing over $2 million worth of consulting business, you're in a completely different country, so there's not much you can actually physically do. When did you realize the root of the problem, and how did you go about solving it? What were your next steps?
Yeah, well, I've always taken anything that comes as an opportunity to improve upon whatever that we do, to improve upon our standing in life, in society, in business. But the first thing I was interested in was to find out if our employees were okay. And indeed, it was also a validation of our strategy. And our strategy in Africa, one of the things that I'd been taught in the US was don't rely on government, because government can be fickle. Okay, they come and go, the politicians. And so we made sure that most of our business was directed at the private sector, but then not in any one country. So we had business and offices in Nigeria, in Cote d'Ivoire, in Liberia, in Zimbabwe, and some other places. And so the first thing that we did was, okay, if they don't want us to do business in Ghana, they will cancel our contracts in Ghana, then we'll send our people elsewhere. Right. Well, the intention was to shut us down, to close us, and to make me go away. And we decided that yes, we will go away, but we'll be here. But we'll go and do work elsewhere and come back to sleep in Ghana. And so we did a lot of work in Cote d'Ivoire, we did a lot of work in Nigeria. It gave us a wonderful business opportunity in Zimbabwe, in South Africa, in Malawi, and so many other places. So we turned that negative experience into something positive. And again, it made us want to do a lot more in the private sector. And in the private sector, the basis of your work is on competence. And so, again, validated our idea that you had to be world-class in terms of your qualification, your competence, your ability to deliver. And consulting work is something of the mind. It's not a product that you're selling. You have to be good. You have to show value. So that's what we did. But it also became a life experience for me to then decide that, you know, I was going up and down, in and out of Ghana. Many people didn't know who I was. And I was essentially minding my own business. And I realized that just minding my own business wouldn't do. That I had to be involved in shaping the environment, the business environment, the relationship between politicians and business people, and particularly entrepreneurs, those who would risk their capital and make sure that the people who end up in government don't become enemies of entrepreneurs, because then that is how Africa doesn't develop.
Now, it's quite clear as a businessman and as an entrepreneur, you have a wealth of experience. But at the time that this was happening, did you think there would be a way out? Or did you feel that your reputation being tarnished would be the end, in effect, of your career?
Well, there were one or two moments where definitely we had some life-threatening situations. However, I decided to come back to Ghana and to let people know that this is where I choose to be, and that I would be here, that this is where I was going to live, no matter what anybody thought, because clearly in my mind, in our minds collectively, as a company, as a family, that there was no wrongdoing of any type. We used every opportunity we had, every means we had to fight this. Because what you don't want is you don't want somebody to set off somewhere to say that this woman, this man, we will mess them up, we will mess up their career, we'll mess up their business opportunities. And so that is exactly what we did, is to use every means available to us in Ghana, in the US, anywhere else, to ensure that people would understand that you can't mess around with just anybody. And after that, then we also made certain that the businesses will be strong and that people would recognize the character that we carry. And we've been able to do that and do that well, but then also to get involved so that some other people don't get the same ideas to do something similar to anybody else. And so with all the things that we're doing in Ghana, in Africa, and elsewhere, if in 1995 we had decided to just roll over and just go away, none of this stuff would have happened. So my involvement in politics came as a direct result of that. Is to say, if they can use politics for something negative, then I would want to use the politics for something positive, and to prevent people from using it for evil purposes, and to destroy the dreams and aspirations of people in this country, at least.
Now, one of the most difficult things in business is to take quite a big blow in terms of your reputation, in terms of your finances, and also in terms of your existing contracts. How did that experience affect your outlook in business from that point on? And in hindsight, when you look back on that experience, is there anything that you would have done differently?
No, your life experiences, they enrich you. You use everything. And so negative, positive experiences, you learn from them. And if you've got the right strategy to begin with, if you've got the right character to begin with, if you've got all of the things that are needed, basically you shift course. Right. You move in a different way. But you see, that same strategy of diversification, of making sure that we're not just in one country, it also works in business in other ways. Like what we're doing today is to make sure that our investments are not just in Ghanaian cedis in Ghana, that we're in the CFA countries, we're in Liberia dollars, we're in UK pounds, we're in American dollars. So if you put all the things in the different baskets, then you are in a diversified portfolio. So if something is going wrong in Nigeria, something is going wrong in Benin, maybe something is going right in Liberia, or something is going right in Cote d'Ivoire, or if something is going wrong in Africa, perhaps something is going right in the United States of America. And just as in the UK, the pound has come under attack, well, we have investments in the UK, but we have investments in the US, and they balance things out. And so diversification is good. Having strengths in different markets is good. And being flexible so you can go where opportunities are offered you is good. And so now with a global strategy, we now send people to places, in many places or many instances, people say, oh, we have expatriates. And expatriates, they have come from America to Nigeria, to Ghana, to Cote d'Ivoire. Well, we have expatriates that have come from Ghana to go to Liberia, or from Nigeria, who we have sent to Cote d'Ivoire. And now we have Ghanaians that we send to go to Chicago, to go and do some work there, or to go to London, to go and do some work there.
Now, with all the wealth of journey that you've managed to acquire, there are so many young people who look up to you as an icon for business. And in terms of their personal entrepreneur journey, they actually look at emulating the path that you've made. What advice would you give to young entrepreneurs looking to start out in business?
Well, they have to. They have to do better than what some of us have done. And it comes back with, you must know your subject. So you must know your product, you must know your service area. So you must be knowledgeable. Without that knowledge, you just can't say, I have some money, so I'm going to go and put it into some business and that's about it. It doesn't work that way. But then I tell people, discipline. Discipline is necessary. Discipline to work, discipline to put monies back into the business, discipline to do the right things always, discipline to pay your taxes, discipline to do everything that is required of you, especially if you have regulators, discipline to do the right things with government, never mind what they do. But that discipline is key. And then we say, well, find the right people, pay them, find the right people, because if you have the right people, good things happen eventually. With some persistence. So I tell people money is not the first thing. Capital is not the first thing. It's knowledge, it's discipline, it's doing the right things, it's persistence. And that works out for people if you do those kinds of things. And then eventually you let people understand that if you are in business and you allow small successes to become your big successes, well, you'll remain small. Because you always have to find newer ways of doing things, better ways of doing things. There's always someone who's also looking at what you're doing and saying, I could do it better than him or better than her. So it's important not to just be happy and satisfied with small successes. The small successes, they come. But the bigger ones, they are the ones that sustain a business and let it become multi-generational.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Nduom, for joining us on my worst day. It has been an absolute honor having you on the program.
Thank you.
So that's what the magnate had to say about his journey in business. But let's find out what his closest allies had to say about his work ethic and his philosophy. Let's take a look.
My name is Kofi Siang, one of the general managers at GM Bank. And GM Bank is one of the over 60 companies of Nduom.
My name is Raphael Maonyaga Aite. I'm the general manager for Coconut Grove Regency Hotel here in Accra.
My name is Richmond Kielson, and I'm the general manager in charge of Nduom Corporate Affairs. I've known Dr. Nduom for close to 24 years.
I first saw Dr. Nduom on television, I think 4 or 5 years before I actually met him in person. And what caught me during that TV discussion was when he said that it is easier to be a millionaire or to make $1 million here in Ghana than anywhere in the world that he had been.
I met Dr. Nduom some 6 years ago. I've known him to be a thinker, a visionary, a man very humble. He eats very little, and he cares about others instead of himself.
And I was really struck by his humility. Now, this is somebody who had been a PhD holder since 1982. He told me, yes, it's not about what I've acquired from the classroom. Indeed, if I want to get into real politics, then it is important that I knew what the people down there are going through.
And if you put all of that together, you can only describe Dr. Nduom in one word, and that is he's a leader. There are some things he does, we learn from him a lot. He's a very practical person. He does what he preaches.
Starting and running a business can be extremely challenging, and most entrepreneurs and managers find new obstacles to remove towering barriers to scale every day of the week. We often encounter disruptive situations in our personal and professional lives, but how we cope with these challenges will determine if you will be ready when your worst day comes. My name is Peace Hyde, and this is my worst day on Forbes Africa TV.